Up to the 30, the 20, 10, 5. Torrey Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to fit it in. Runnels, it does. Runnels stays up. The show's off his 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Runnels.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live. We are excited to bring you the G5 college football coverage you love each and every week. I am Luke. I am joined by my co-host, Justice. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, and a retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. And don't forget to get the G5 Hive merchandise store. It is now live. Link is at the bottom of the YouTube video comments, as well as pinned on our X page and at the bottom of this screen. All right.
All right. You ready to get into our review of Week 12?
Let's do it. Our midweek G5 matchups. We had Ball State at Buffalo. Buffalo wins 51-48. Aljay Henderson, 27 carries, 126 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Bowick for Ball State been putting it on here lately. He had 7 receptions for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did you get eyes on this one? I did not get eyes on many midweek games. So what were your takeaways?
It was a good game. Ball State gave them everything they could handle. CJ Agbana just kind of went absolute bonkers in the second half, and led the Bulls to victory. It was definitely the best game of that night. I watched a little bit of the Bowling Green game just to see Harold Fannin Jr. I did not watch much of the Toledo Central Michigan game, but I mostly watched the Ball State, the Buffalo game. Tanner Koziol had a great game for Ball State. Ball State had opportunities to win the game. It didn't shake out that way. But the game went to overtime. Buffalo won it in overtime. Samanza had an interception. And then that just, I don't know. Ball State just seemed kind of snake bitten. I thought they were gonna pull it out, but they couldn't get it done there at the end of the game.
Duck's House in the chat. Hey, we're talking about G5 football. It's a great night. His
absolutely.
comment for just the audio is, "Hey, how's your night going, guys?" So, Duck's House, thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you're having a great night. Next game, Western
anytime
Michigan.
we can talk G5, it's a great night.
Western Michigan at Bowling Green. Sounds like you had eyes on this one. Bowling Green wins 31-13. Take it away.
Bowling Green is just one of the. Obviously, we like them very much. We have them ranked in our top 5 of the G5. I think they are just they are so good on defense. Offensively, with Terrion Stewart and Harold Fannin Jr. leading the way. I think they're the class of the crop in the MAC. Western Michigan, their offense does not look great. Hayden Wolf had 2 turnovers in the game, 2 interceptions. I think what we're seeing, Western Michigan was the leader in the MAC, but they hadn't played the leaders. They had played the bottom of the conference, and now they're playing the top MAC schools, and they're getting their butts handed to them. I think, Western Michigan looks as a disappointing season. But I think, Western Michigan is not as good as these other teams. I think it's playing out probably the way, it should in terms of who's going to represent the MAC in the championship game.
All right, Central Michigan at Toledo. Glasser got the start. He went 16 for 27 for 150 yards and 2 INTs. Marion Lukes had 80 yards rushing and a touchdown.
Glasser had 2 fumbles too. So Glasser's a true freshman. He had 4 turnovers in the game. It was not pretty. It's not pretty. I do think the future is bright for Glasser. I think they should stick with him instead of Tyler Jefferson. And maybe they will, because I think this is only the second game he's played in. Glasser has, so I think he can play in 2 more. I could be wrong about that. I was going to look at his stats real quick. It looks like he's only played in 2 games so far this year. So my hope is that they let him play the next 2. He can still redshirt, get him that experience, because I do think he is the future for Central Michigan, and get him that game experience. And I think he'll be a good quarterback in the future.
And Toledo pulled this one out 37-10. I don't think I had mentioned that. Next game, Kent State at Miami of Ohio. Talked about this earlier. Miami of Ohio wins 34-7. I think the thing that we have to talk about here is Kent State actually went up 7-0 at one point, and that was the first time that they've led for a second this season. So that was probably the thing that was more to talk about here.
Yeah, I was watching that game and I was like, "Oh, great, we got a game here, man!" Touchdown, Tommy. It started for Kent State, and I was like, "Man, like they're gonna get things rolling here with Krishan McCray and Luke Floria," and then as quickly as they started off hot, it fell apart. It fell apart really quick. That Miami Ohio defense was not playing so great at the beginning of the year. They have really turned it on down the stretch here. Phenomenal defense, and Miami just kind of took over the game, dominated.
All right, and then we have Akron at Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois wins 29-16. Telly Johnson, our freshman of the week, last week he had 21 carries for 104 yards in this one.
Did not get in the end zone though. Did not get in the end zone.
No,
Gavin Williams had a long touchdown run, and then Trayvon Rudolph with a sweep had a long touchdown run as well. But Telly Johnson played well, and he has a bright future ahead in Northern Illinois.
All right, Eastern Michigan at Ohio. Ohio wins 35-10. They moved to 5-1 in the MAC. This was your offensive player of the week. What do you want to talk about here? I mean, and Owen had a great game, 8 receptions for 139 yards. I believe he's got more eligibility. I think he's a junior. So this team has a bright future ahead of them. So they're 7-3 this year, 5-1 in the MAC. Ohio is going to be a team to be reckoned with. Again, a surprise team, in my opinion, based off how much they lost it, losing the Maple Rifle there in Curtis Rorick, and losing some of the guys that they did to P5 schools, and then just their offensive line. A lot of them graduated, so this is a great season for Ohio.
Yeah, this I think this is a team coming in that I was probably higher on than you were.
Absolutely,
just because of the young talent. And one of those guys, Ricky Hunt Jr., really hasn't been a big part of it. It's been the Anthony Tyus show. But that Wednesday night, it was the Parker Navarro show. The key for Parker Navarro in Ohio is minimizing the turnovers. That's kind of been the Achilles heel for them. They have a young defense, but a really strong defense. Probably the most surprising thing for me coming out of this game was I expected it to be a much more competitive game than it was. I thought Eastern Michigan would really fight them. I thought it'd be a really close game, tight game. It's not the way it went. And again, kind of like when I talked about Western Michigan, I think maybe you're seeing the cream rise to the crop, as the Macho Man would say. The cream always rises to the top.
To the top, yeah.
cream always rises to the top, and I think that's what you're seeing here in the MAC, and it's gonna be an interesting battle here the last 2 weeks to see who can represent the MAC in the championship game. And there's some good football played in the MAC. I think folks forget Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. Like folks forget that, right? And they're not in first place in the MAC. There's good football in the MAC, so I'm really interested, excited to see who makes that MAC championship game.
Oh yeah, brother. I'm not. Maybe that's a little bit of Macho and Hulk. I'm not sure.
Cream always rises to the top.
East Carolina at Tulsa. This was a sloppy game. I only got to watch. Like I said, typically I don't get a lot of midweek games, but I got to catch a little bit of the end of this game. But East Carolina outlasts Tulsa 38-31. Rajah Harris puts ECU ahead with a late 24-yard touchdown. He has 18 carries for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joseph Williams, the freshman player of the week, had 5 receptions, 158 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Caden Hauser, 314 yards passing, 1 touchdown. I think it was 3 interceptions. It was a rough night passing, but East Carolina becomes bowl eligible in what was an exciting game, it seems.
It was a very exciting game, and I would say it was, I don't think it was the most exciting game for the G5, but I think it was the second most exciting this week. And then like Joseph Williams, man, like he was our freshman offensive player of the week, man. Like he put on a performance. He put on an absolute performance in that game. Big time coming out party on national TV there for Joseph Williams, and Tulsa has nothing to be ashamed of. I think Tulsa has a bright future ahead. I wish. And we talked about this before the season. Like, I wish they would have stuck with Cooper Legas all year, right? I think their record would be better than what it is. I mean, they kind of played quarterback roulette pretty much the whole season, or 3/4 of the season, right? Seems like they kind of settled on Legas the last few games, but up to that point, it was a pretty heavy rotation. And I think again, they were feeling folks out and trying to figure out who gives them the best chance. But sometimes when you have 2, you have none, or you have 3, you have none. You need to pick one and stick with them. But it was an exciting game. Rajah Harris had a phenomenal game. Bummed to see Chase Sewell go out after that 50-yard catch there. I think he ended up on like the 1-yard line, right? I think that's where his knee went down and didn't get the touchdown. But exciting game, a lot of offense. Super excited for East Carolina getting bowl eligible after firing their coach midseason. That's something to be proud of. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. You fire a coach and you get bowl eligible in the same year.
Wyoming at Colorado State. Did not get any eyes on this game, but Colorado State wins 24-10. Not much to talk about here other on the stat sheet other than
they got to get Harrison Whaley the ball more, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, they, especially with no John Michael Gillenborg, right? Gillenborg's kind of the focal point, I think, of their passing offense. He was out. And so, in that scenario, they got to get Harrison Whaley the ball more. And interesting thing that, folks, Jay Sovell has only been on the job for a year, and folks are not even a whole year yet. And folks are already calling for him to be fired. And so, Wyoming's having a bad year. And they just got to lean on their playmakers, man. With no Gillenborg, they got to lean on Harrison Whaley, and they did not do a good job of doing it against Colorado State this week.
Justin Marshall is pretty much the highlight of this game. 16 carries for 104 yards, no touchdown. But a name to know for Wyoming, Chris Durr. Sounds like he's popping off at practice. I don't know what you have to do at practice at Wyoming to pop off, but it sounds like he's doing those things. He's made a couple nice grabs this season. True freshman, a guy, definitely a name to know. And then the game that we were all excited about to top off the night, North Texas at UTSA. North Texas drops this one. They lose 48-27. Owen McCowan, 379 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Amador was all over the field. He had 9 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown. What did you think of this one?
As I said earlier, like I was shocked at the performance by the North Texas offense, right?
They just struggled the whole game.
The passing offense,
only having
the passing offense, yes.
It was rough going. Only 7 points in the first half. It was rough. They could run the ball. They ran the ball really well. Porter had 3 touchdowns on the ground, 193 yards. But when you're trying to keep up with a road runner, you have to go a little bit faster than the run game.
Yeah, I expected this game to be a shootout, and it was not. North Texas passing offense did not look good. And someone else pointed this out on X, and they kind of felt like what's happened is there's a return of Damon Ward. And you wouldn't think that would be a negative, but they feel like the return of Damon Ward has kind of, I don't know, taken away from DT Sheffield, and they're forcing the ball to Ward instead of to Sheffield, and that there's some, that maybe, because of that, they're losing their identity, right? They had this kind of established identity, and then Damon Ward returns from injury and kind of throws a monkey wrench in it, and it's kind of messing things up. That's what someone speculated. I haven't, watched enough North Texas games to have that opinion, but it was definitely not good this past week. Not the North Texas offense that we've come to know and love. The air raid, the Eric Morris spread offense there. It wasn't good.
And this one, just watching UTSA throw the ball, it's been fun. It was kind of an up and down season for them this year so far, but they've really been hitting their stride the last, 3 to 5 games. So again, they have been.
Owen McCown has been lighting it up.
And yes, if you're not familiar with the G5, Owen McCown is definitely a son of, why am I blanking on his name?
Cade
McCown. So,
not Cade, Josh. I'm sorry, Josh McCown, not Cade McCown. Josh.
All right.
Josh McCown's his dad.
So let's see here. I am all lost in my notes, so excuse me as we get to our G5 versus P4 matchups. We have Louisiana Monroe against Auburn. Auburn wins 48-14. Never really in doubt. UNO Monroe shut out in the first half. They were down 24-0. Is there anything you want to talk about in this one?
No, I didn't get to watch the game. I kind of expected this. I mean, for UL Monroe to be able to win this game, Ahmad Hardy is going to have. He's the focal point of their offense. He's going to have to run the ball a lot, and they're going to have to play great defense. The UL Monroe defense has been trending the wrong way the last few weeks, and and Ahmad Hardy didn't have a terrible game. 15 carries for 60 yards, 1 touchdown. But when he's pretty much the focal point of your offense, you're going against SEC school, it's going to be hard to win a game like that. When they know that you want to run the ball a lot, and so I don't know that I expected Auburn to score 48, but I did expect this outcome, I guess.
Another outcome I expected: Texas A&M beats New Mexico State 38-3. New Mexico State able to put up 3 points in the fourth quarter. Again, anything you want to touch on?
Yeah,
here?
New Mexico State's not is kind of not looking so good. They don't really have a quarter. Their quarterback play is pretty abysmal, and that's kind of set the stage. They have some talent at running back. Seth McGowan, former Oklahoma Sooner, Mike Washington there as well. But that quarterback in that passing game is not good, and yeah, it's not good by Conference USA standards. It's certainly not going to go good against a ranked SEC opponent in their house.
All right. Moving over to our Saturday featured G5 versus G5 matchups. We had Tulane versus Navy. This one was more lopsided than I anticipated. Tulane wins 35-0. Mensah throws for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mekhi Hughes has another good game. He was slow starting to get going, but he ends up with 22 carries for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, Horvath leaves in the first half, does not return. Tulane cruises in this one. Anything that you want to add?
No, I'll be honest. I mean, I watched of these 6 games, I watched 2 of them, and I was at one of them, Old Dominion, and I watched the Washington State New Mexico game. Other than that, I was at Old Dominion pretty much all day, so I didn't get to watch the others.
All right, so Coastal Carolina at Marshall. Marshall wins 31-19, sits atop of the Sun Belt East at 5-1, 7-3 overall. This game, Marshall blocked a field goal, took it back for a touchdown, but it was kind of one of those games that the final score made it seem a lot closer than it actually was in this game. It was 17-7. So Coastal had the upper hand in the first quarter. Then Marshall kind of took over, scored 7 more in the third, and then they pretty much cruised in this one. Final score will show like, hey, Coastal did pretty well. They'll lead the stats category when it comes to passing yardage and rushing, in receiving, but this game was dominated by Marshall. James Madison versus Old Dominion. Take it away, Justice.
Missed opportunities, man. Old Dominion 2 weeks ago had the opportunity to control their own destiny in the Sun Belt, be the Sun Belt East champ. They just went out. They performed poorly against App State. They had 4 turnovers. That was the difference in the game. They lost to App State. Now they're a game back from the Sun Belt East lead, and they were gifted another opportunity this week with Troy beating Georgia Southern, and knocking them down.
I was texting you. I was like, "Oh, this is going on. This is going on." And you're like,
They were gifted another opportunity, and they squandered it. They lost to JMU. I'll tell you, they were up at half. The second half offensive performance was abysmal. They were 1 for 11 on third down. 1 for 11. It's not going to get it done. Now, there's a story behind the 1 and 11 or 1 for 11. It's like they weren't in good positions to begin with, right? So that they weren't getting it done on first down or second down. I think I saw someone post up a stat in the second half. 19 of the 26 first down plays was a run up the middle. 19. And for 3 yards a shot. It's not getting it done. And you're doing it 19 out of 26 times. The defense knows what's coming. The other thing is there wasn't a lot of discipline on the defense. 4 times we jumped off sides to give them a first down. 4 times. And that was third or fourth down plays where they're trying to draw you off sides and you jump off sides to give them first down. That's just not good. It was bad. The offensive performance in the second half was terrible. Too many mistakes, bad play calling to get a win against this JMU team. I don't think this JMU team is great. Are they good? Sure. But I was not as impressed with them as I have been over the last 2 years. Post-game press conference, finally asked head coach Ricky Ronnie the first question I've asked him all season. I've previously asked some players questions in those press conferences, but I've never asked Ricky Ronnie a question. I did ask Ricky Ronnie a question this week. I asked him if, now that there's more film out there on Colton Joseph, are they seeing the defenses attack Old Dominion differently than perhaps they were, when he got his first start or 4 games ago? And I found his answer kind of interesting. He said, no, not really. He goes, that's really an NFL thing. He goes, you don't really see that in college football. He goes, NFL is where you kind of see those guys, game planning for the tendencies of the quarterback or a certain player. He goes, you don't generally see that in college football. And, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I had never heard that. It's not what I naturally would have thought happens, but that was his answer anyway. But yeah, Old Dominion is now now they've put themselves in a position where they have to win the last 2 games to make it to a bowl game, and it's disappointing because they had the Sun Belt East in their sights, and they squandered it. And me personally, it's going to be a hard road to hoe to get to win these last 2 games. They're not easy games. They play Marshall, number 1 in the Sun Belt East, 1 loss. They play Arkansas State, one of the best teams in the Sun Belt West, and on the road. And so, I don't know. Like, I tell you one thing I do feel certain about. If Old Dominion loses against Marshall, they're going to lose against Arkansas State. And
I feel pretty certain about one thing. Colton Joseph is to be running from Mike Green a lot in this game.
yeah. I'm excited to see Mike Green in person. We'll get that. We'll get to that when we get to the preview. But yeah, I think if Old Dominion loses, they'll lose too. And then the interesting thing is going to be what's going to happen with Ricky Ronnie. Like, I think my gut says he has to win these last 2 games, or he could be looking for a new job. But yeah, disappointing. It's been a disappointing season for Old Dominion. So it went from that Thursday night national TV high of beating the absolute dog crap out of Georgia Southern to losing to App State, losing to JMU. Ricky Ronnie is 0-3 against our biggest rival, JMU. It's not getting it done.
I just feel like you didn't really know what you were going to get at the quarterback position coming into the season, and like you kind of makeshift made it through, and then it seemed like you figured out something. So
yeah,
the fact that he's on the hot seat kind of
again.
Yeah. So I don't know. When you say like this season hasn't been a kind of what you thought for ODU, like I don't know. I feel like they've done a little bit better than what I thought that they would do. Like I didn't think they'd be in contention for Sun Belt.
But when you see that potential in that Georgia Southern game, right, and you see what they can do, and then you come see them crap the bed against App State, crap the bed against JMU, it's pretty frustrating.
I can also see like JMU was a team that put up 70 points against North Carolina. Like,
yeah, but
again, they play up and down and all that stuff. But
yeah, I was not overly impressed with JMU.
All right, Boise State at San Jose State. Boise State wins this one 42-21. Ashton Jeanty, 32 carries, 159 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Eget had 446 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, one of which went to Lockhart, who had his best game of the season, 10 receptions for 172 yards. This was a fun game to watch, and it went to halftime tied at 14, but it was like Boise State, it was their second possession, went for a fake field goal, didn't get it. They could have just kicked the field goal and scored the 3 points. It just seemed like one of those things. It's like, okay, Boise State's they're gonna turn it around, right? No, they're gonna turn it around. Yep, they're gonna do right. They're gonna turn it around. And then it was like that second half, they leaned on, like this Ashton Jeanty guy is like really good. We should like get him the ball a whole bunch. And when you talk about the Heisman moments, it just seemed like that was kind of it for him in the sense of the team, like recognize like, hey, we've got this guy who like can do all these great things. Let's just give him the ball, let him do his thing. And they just rode Ashton Genty, and San Jose State threw the ball, and they threw bomb after bomb. You're like, oh, they're not going to throw another one. And then here's another bomb. But it's like Boise State kind of shot themselves in the foot at the beginning, and then you just kind of thought that they would finally pull it out, and then they did. But it was it got kind of nerve-wracking there in that first half, especially that first quarter. And it's like, oh, we can do a fake field goal here, and we'll be able to weather the storm. And then they were having a lot of 3-and-outs. It just wasn't looking good at the beginning. South Alabama at Louisiana. This one was definitely an interesting game. Did you happen to catch any of this? I'm trying to remember what time this was. That was at 7.
Okay,
so you would probably.
I don't think I got home till right around 9:30.
I could not find this game anywhere on TV, and I've got a pretty good selection of games. But South Alabama wins this one 24-22. Lopez pretty much delivered on the ground for you. Pritchett crushed it. He had a great game, 11 receptions for 170 yards. And South Alabama, like I said, wins this one 24-22. They get up 24-3 at the first half. And Louisiana scores 16 points there at the end. So you kind of got nervous that, is South Alabama going to lose this one? It kind of gives you flashbacks to the Arkansas State game. But they were able to hold on and get this win. Bullock did well on the ground as well. And then nightcap off to a great weekend of football. My favorite game.
This is the best game of the week.
It was exciting. If you have not watched it, I would recommend watching it over. It was fun at one point. So I guess before I get too far into it, New Mexico wins 38-35 over number 18 Washington State. This game was a blast to watch. It got down to a 4th down. They end up New Mexico kicks a field goal that I'm like, I think you have to go for that there. You have to go for it. You can't give the ball back to Washington State. Washington State just seems like just how Mateer's been going. It's like, you just gave the ball back to Patrick Mahomes at the end of a game. I'm not saying he is Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying that feeling when you're like, I don't want to give this quarterback too much time because like he only needs like 26 seconds to get down the field. Like he does not need very much time at all with these wide receivers. Mateer throws for 375 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he might have had a rushing touchdown as well. Devin Dampier had his great night on the ground for, like I mentioned, 193 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kyle Williams, huge touchdown at the end of the game to tie or to go up in this one. He had 9 receptions for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the Dampier's run there at the end puts New Mexico over the top. It was a fun game to watch, and the Lobos really turned it around in the second half. They were down 28-14, I believe, and they scored 14 in the third, 10 in the fourth. Defense stepped up. Honestly, the defense has been kind of one of the weaknesses of New Mexico. And that defense, that second half, you could look back to being a pivotal point in New Mexico's future.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that game had everything you could ask for, right? I mean, drama, lots of offense. Two of the best players in college football, John Mateer and Devin Dampier. As we mentioned earlier in the show, that there's reports that John Mateer has an offer on the table for $1 million NIL. I have no doubt that Devin Dampier is going to have some offers too. The selfish part of me hopes to see. Hey, talk about coaches. What about Bronco Mendenhall, right? What he has
Yeah.
done, what he has done with this New Mexico team is nothing short of phenomenal, miracle. I don't know what the words are to use. Like they could be bowl eligible, and that is like that blows my mind the way people were talking about him. I mean, and I think we were higher on anybody, but we certainly didn't expect them to be bowl eligible, right?
Yeah.
I think our biggest concern was the offensive line, and how they could perform. But Devin Dampier has had a phenomenal season. Um, Bronco Mendenhall, if he were to leave, you gotta wonder if Devin Dampier doesn't follow suit. Although Devin Dampier could certainly have some callers in the P4, given the way he has performed. I mean, look at Taylor Green, right? Taylor Green goes from Boise State to Arkansas, and Devin Dampier has shown and played better than I've ever seen from Taylor Green. And so it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Again, selfishly, I hope to see both Bronco and Devin stick with the Lobos and see them build something special there.
In the chat, Cameron Williams. What's up, Cam? Where does Ashton Jeanty rank amongst all-time great G5 running backs?
I think it's number one, right? Who else? Who would you put above him? I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look up a list, but he's got to be right up there.
I think he would be right. I could see being D'Angelo Williams, just because D'Angelo Williams did it for a couple of years there at Memphis, and it wasn't just like the one great year. It was two really good years there. The other one I would put up there would be Matt Forte at Tulane. He had 2,000-ish yards rushing when he was there with the Green Wave. And then the other one I would put up there, they were G5 at the time, was Kevin Smith at Central Florida. He had, I think, 2,500 yards rushing or something like that. Those would probably be in that list. So I think, where does Ashton Jeanty rank amongst the all-time great? I would say probably number 3. Like D'Angelo Williams, just because he did it for a couple of years. And then I think if we're looking at 1 year in Kevin Smith, I'm looking up his stats now. He had 450 carries for 2,567 yards and 29 touchdowns. So I could see you putting him over there because of the less carries, and he'll probably break that touchdown. So I would say he's definitely top 3.
Yeah, so just Underdog Dynasty has a list of the top 10, and this is from it's from 2017, so it's got some age to it. But they had Kevin Smith as number 1 in their list. They had number 2 as Marcel Shipp, UMass. He had 428 carries, 2,542 yards, 18 touchdowns. Number 3, Matt Forte, Tulane, 2,127 yards, 23 touchdowns. Number 4, Adrian Peterson, not that Adrian Peterson from Georgia Southern, who had 2,056 yards and 19 touchdowns. They had D'Angelo Williams at number 5 with 1,964 yards, 18 touchdowns. I won't go down the rest. D'Angelo Williams is in there twice, 5th and 7th. Adrian Peterson's in there twice. Georgia Southern, Adrian Peterson.
So I mean, I just could remember the ones that I'm 35, so those were the least the ones that I could remember, because I remember that UCF season. was a
For
good one, 'cause
me,
that was their,
I mean, I'll be honest with you.
undefeated
I put Jancy number one. And it's not just about the stats. It's what he does. Like the missed tackles, man. Like that is just. I mean, it's just crazy. Like and they haven't done it as much this year as they have in the past. And I think
he
they've
can
done it
catch
just
the ball.
yeah, is the pass catching. And that's what puts him over the top for me. Is if over the other guys is the pass catching ability. You haven't seen it on display this year as much as we have in years past. But man, like we interviewed Bo Richter playing in the NFL, Minnesota Vikings, safety Trey Taylor playing in the NFL, Las Vegas Raiders. And when we interviewed those guys, we talked about Ashton Jeanty, and they both said, like, it's not the running that was like what they didn't expect. It was his pass catching ability that was the thing that stood out the most to them. And these two guys are in the NFL, and so that's what puts Ashton Jeanty on top of that list for me. And that's going to
All right.
wrap us up this week.
That was a little bit longer, but it was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We had a lot of people watching online, YouTube, X. Make sure you go out, you follow us if you like what we do. Show us some love out there on Twitter. Come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in Week 13, as well as look forward to Week 14 of the 2024 season. And as always, bring you up to date on all the latest news and happenings from the world of G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, a like, and a follow. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.